G'day, mates. Happy 1, 2, 3. Is it the 14th today?
That's a good
This Saturday?
question.
Happy 14th. I've probably got that wrong. Of June. This was another beautiful mates episode. In AFL commentary, Al Nicholson feels like a steady hand in the footy landscape, always showcasing an energetic love for the game whilst being fair and balanced in his call. The Tassie native covers the game for 7AFL Weekly, saying things like, "The Bombers are coming, they're coming hard. Please welcome footy commentator, Whispering, Al Nicholson." G'day, Whispering.
Oh, dearie me. G'day, Broden. Good to be with you. You know, every time I occasionally get close to saying that again, when a team's fighting back in a game, I think I'm going to get ridiculed for this.
We've got an army of people who are listening for any of you to say something mildly sexual, and then they're like, "G'day, guys, I need you to clip up 115 to 128. This guy said this, and we've got to turn it into a song."
I'm going all erotic from now on.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm going to get a really big dose of it from now on.
It could be a press red for horny, as opposed to like that could be the new thing, or like because there's SEN does the club calls. There could be a horny call.
Like it.
Whispering. Have you heard this before?
Oh, I copped it a bit. Harsha Bogle, I think, nicknamed me Whispering when I used to do some golf course commentary for the ABC back in the day, and you'd have to whisper into the microphone. I remember Adam Scott, I think it was on the par 5 on the back 9 at Royal Pines.
Not well.
In the PGA Championship. He's over his broomstick putting for eagle, and I'm whispering away a few metres away, and he lifted his eyes at me and glared at me because I was a little too close and he could hear me. So, yeah, Harsha decided they'd cross to me from the Test cricket. I'd give a quick golf update, and I became Whispering Alister.
Because I know you more as an on-voice gentleman, but I can imagine in that world. Would you ever, you know those podcasts that do like go to sleep podcasts?
Oh,
like
yeah.
where you talk like this.
Yes.
You could do that, and that could be a side hustle.
Broden.
Yes.
Go to hell to sleep.
Yeah, we could do, that could be the next half hour is us just doing a sleep podcast. Actually, that's most of this podcast, if I'm being honest. Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. You're in the world of, I would say, there's commentators who are kind of personality, like their personality is their commentary, and there are those who are champions of the game. And not to say one's better than the other, but you are championing the game when you call. Is that fair to say?
That's what I'd hope to do.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, if I'm not even noticed in the call, that's probably a good thing. I just want people to enjoy the game and almost not even think about who's commentating it. Maybe accuracy, a bit of energy, and try to capture key moments well in the game are keys for me. But if you're getting talked about sometimes, it's not always a positive thing. So I'm happy quietly going about my business.
That's awesome. So, all right, let's get started on your life. So you started in a place called Penguin.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
In northwest Tassie.
Yep.
So you're a Tasmanian native. What was it like growing up in Penguin?
Oh, brilliant. It's like freedom. Yeah. It's literally Bass Strait at the front door and rolling farmland at the back door. So you're either at the beach or in the back, jump the barbed wire fence at the back of the house, and you're in the paddock playing footy and cricket or climbing trees, built, bows and arrows, all that kind of stuff.
Where is it? Is it on the, like, are you on the north coast or to the west?
So if you imagine Tasmania, literally the very top coast, smack bang on the beach in the middle of the top. Yeah.
Hannah Gadsby's from up that part of the
She
world.
is. I think she's a little further. Is she Smithton or Stanley, that kind of area? So
Sure.
Penguin's in between Devonport and Burnie. Yeah,
Okay.
about 2,500, 3,000 people.
Is this near a place called Strawn?
Yeah, well, it's probably maybe an hour and a bit's drive from Strawn. That's proper west coast. Beautiful. Yeah. This is what they call the northwest, but it's technically really central coast. So it's the top coast right in the middle.
So just an aspirational, just jumping fences. What, you grew up loving footy. I've heard you say that you could get 774 ABC radio from Tassie.
Yeah, we could. Yeah,
so
across Bass Strait. So that was our childhood. My dad had the classic old leather-bound transistor. It was always on. We were always outside doing stuff. So I remember listening to the Could Have Been Champions as a kid. Absolutely loved the songs and You're the Player, Gary Ablett, all that kind of stuff. And then we would listen religiously to Tim Lane, Peter Booth, around the grounds with Tommy Hafey and Crackers Keenan and all those guys. We used to ring the talkback line when we were really young, just in the hope of getting on and speaking to these guys. You'd get on and literally have no idea what you were going to say when you got on. You were just desperate to talk to these people. I think we'd ask some inane question about how many goals Gary Ablett was going to kick that day, but we just really wanted to talk to Tim Lane and Smooth.
I'm curious about that because growing up, who you are when you're a kid is when you're an adult, you're trying to strive to what's. I know for me, growing up, I used to want to just be on ABC comedies because that's what I watched when I was a kid, or American comedies. And then when I got to adulthood, I found that my career was actually forged talking to an audience who were watching us in a completely different way. So when we made an ABC TV show, we found that doing online videos was far more where we should be spending our time. But I'm curious to know, when you were growing up, what was it like to consume footy? Because now kids consume it completely differently.
Yeah.
But how was it? What did it feel like, listening to Coulda Beans and all of that? Was it a positive experience?
Oh my gosh, exciting. Like I just associate all of that with great positivity. I remember being in the veggie garden out the back helping my dad pick broad beans or something the day Stephen Kernahan kicked it out on the full against Essendon. And funnily enough, the ABC didn't have the call of the game that day. And it was my first experience listening to Rex Hunt call the football.
Right.
And having listened to the ABC my entire junior life, I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? And he's, Kuta might have feeties and behind the stick and all of this stuff I'd never heard before. And I was a Carlton fan as a kid, so I was enraged with the whole thing. So I think that made me rusted on ABC for a fair while after that. Yeah,
Rex used to make people go one of two ways.
Yeah.
I don't know, just maybe because of the way I take information, I could never hear things and learn that way. So I never knew what the hell he was talking about, but I kind of enjoyed it. The big man who travels by train and not a well man for
totally.
Sean Wellman. So you have a love. Do you still love footy?
Absolutely. Yeah, every time I jump in the car and go to work, or, I know I'm going to the MCG to do a big game, I genuinely still get that feeling of, I'm so privileged, so lucky to do this. And I remember when I first started with the ABC full-time in Brisbane, just walking down Vulture Street to go and do that first. It was a Thursday night game, St Kilda and Brisbane. I was on the boundary and I just looked up at the grandstand. I thought, I can never, ever get complacent about this. You are so lucky to be doing this, and I still feel that today.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Genuinely.
And did you always want to do it? What did you want to be when you were a kid?
No, I mean, when you grow up in a tiny little town like Penguin, that was the thing about the radio, is you were well aware that the game was a long way away, and the radio brought it into your home, but you didn't feel like you could touch it growing up in a little town like Tassie. So the idea of being a commentator for me was never, ever something that you could do. I used to run around in the backyard doing it, or I used to love the WWF when I was a kid, so I'd, do the ring announcing and all that kind of stuff, but never thought you could do it as a profession. I wanted to be a greenkeeper or a carpenter. Where I grew up in Tassie, there were minimal apprenticeships, was a pretty low socio-economic
What was the trades
period.
in the area? What's the Penguin trades?
Well, there was a massive fiberglass factory actually behind us, which, funnily enough, I think they owned the paddocks that we used to go and mow football grounds in, and they just didn't seem to care. We used to ride bikes, build bike tracks in these paddocks, not ever really knowing who owned them. But yeah, so Ron G owned this huge fiberglass factory, and they became one of the major ambulance suppliers around the world. Huge local enterprise. Yeah, so a lot of people worked there. And then the pulp mill at Burnie, and there was a pigment plantation site called Tioxide, which funnily enough turned the northwest coast sea, orange. So whenever you drove along the northwest coast, the sea was orange because they would just pump the effluent out into the ocean. If you drive there now, obviously environmental concerns have ensured that doesn't happen anymore. But they also had this sign, Broden, which amused every kid that grew up in Tasmania when you drove along the Bass Highway. A sign out the front of Tioxide saying how many days it had been since a serious accident at the factory, since someone had been injured. And some days that might actually be 2 days. So they're sort of promoting the fact that someone's been injured on site.
Oh, my God.
As a kid, you'd drive around the corner and we'd play the guessing game. How many today?
Yeah.
200 days. Oh, it's only 3 days. Oh, someone's been hurt again.
I realised the more I talk to Tassie people, and I've heard from a lot of Tassie people in the last 6 months, the more that the Devils has come on and gone on and off and everything. Can you explain to me, to a mainlander, just explain Tassie?
Explain the place?
Yeah.
I think it's the perfect place to bring up children. You just get freedom that you don't get anywhere else. There's a pace of life, an ease of life, an ability to do a whole wide range of things, like very outdoors. You want to be outside, you want to be at the beach, you want to be in wilderness, you want to be in a river. You can go to the local golf course and maybe, you're not waiting to play a shot because it's not going to be packed. There's no traffic. Penguin had one set of traffic lights. I come to Melbourne now and I become an animal on the road because I can't get anywhere.
You want to wave to everyone as you go past.
Well, it's like, wave in a not so polite fashion sometimes, Broden. But it's a place where people are genuinely friendly and they care about each other. So a lot of us have left for opportunities on the mainland, but whenever you find someone from Tasmania, you always spark up a conversation. And there will be some point of connection somewhere with, I know them, or, I went to school with someone, or, we're pretty tight and very, very proud of what the little island's done, punching above its weight for many years, I think.
Do you think the footy team will happen?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, 100% I do. And I know there's been some unfortunate events of late that have cast a bit of a shadow over it, but I'm just so confident that the right people are involved in building the club. And I'm also very confident the AFL's heart is in the right place with this too. They're very invested in Tasmania coming into the competition, and I just cannot see how this runaway train can be reeled in. There's so much good work that's been done. There are 210,000 members. Brendan Gale is one of the greatest administrators that the game's seen. He's running the club. There's a board in place that's so high calibre. I've just got complete faith that they'll get it across the line.
Oh, fair enough. They have a good board, you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, extremely high calibre people. I mean, Grant O'Brien, also from Penguin. He played in a premiership at Penguin in the 80s.
Penguin's the power brokers, aren't
Brendan Gale, Penguin.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. Russell Robertson, Penguin.
Really?
Yeah, Penguin produced a lot of, very, very
fiberglass
capable people. Yeah, exactly. Built on fiberglass fumes.
I see a lot of parallels. I studied in Ballarat, and I see a lot of parallels to Ballarat to Tassie in that there's a real sense of identity to a place when it's smaller, but then also you are right next to each other, and you really, like in Ballarat, the richest part of the area is quite close to the roughest areas, and you really feel that everyone kind of gets more of a say in how things are done and said. Does that feel like Tassie?
That was my experience in Penguin completely. And I think it's been really helpful in life because there was the whole the demographic of people that lived there. You mixed with everyone from kids who couldn't afford new shoes to go to school to working class, maybe middle class. There wasn't a lot of affluence in the town. So you learned to connect with people from all walks of life, and you did get around each other, and it was sport that brought people together. Little towns like Penguin, the football club was a central part of the community. Every time Penguin played at home, our parents would drop us off at the gate, pick us up at the end of the day, and you'd see the same people. You're sort of raised by the community in a way. If you got up to any mischief, you knew that you'd get sorted out by someone else's parents, all those sorts of things, because they knew who you were. And
that's always worse too.
Yeah, you couldn't get away with too much, although we probably did get away with a little bit.
Yeah, I remember my neighbour's parents told me off once, and that was the scariest thing ever, because those were just wild card adults that I had no long form connection to.
Yeah,
it's genuinely scary. You don't know what they're going to do. I feel like there's a parallel in the best case scenario for the Devils to being Geelong, in that way that it's a whole town getting, or a whole state getting around something. Does that feel right?
That's exactly what it is, Broden. I think they're a great example. So Boutique Stadium, that whole Western District area of Geelong, sort of similar population size to Tasmania. And I mean, there are a whole lot of myths around Tasmanians and their lack of willingness to travel and their hatred for one another, north and south. I grew up in the north and lived in the south. And I love Cascade. I love Bogues equally. They're both brilliant beers. And I know that this will bring people together. Yes, back in the day, and history would show that when the Northwest Football Union played the TFL, it was on for young and old. But when the best players got picked to pull on the map and play for Tasmania, there was nothing that united Tasmanians more. 65 years on the 13th, so Friday, of the great win over Victoria at York Park, the Tasmania hadn't it. And that is such a famous victory for a little state to beat Victoria. And I know that was deemed by all Tasmanians at the time as being one of the best things they ever saw. I think a young Tim Lane was in the crowd and still has the program from the game to this day. So, yeah, I just think it'll be such a uniting force in the state. And you saw what the Jack Jumpers have done on a smaller scale. Like they've sold out 60 consecutive stadiums.
They're unbelievable, man. And Scott Roth feels like just the most ideal.
What a weapon.
What an absolute weapon. Scary
yeah,
weapon.
He is.
He's scary, but
likes a cigar and a red, and
defend the island is so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he's got some serious swagger.
Hell yeah!
Him.
So your dream was to be a greenkeeper or a carpenter. What happened? Why did that dream get crushed?
Well, there weren't many apprenticeships going on the Northwest Coast. when I put the four-wheeler in the dam at the Penguin Golf Course, changing the holes.
What was the as in like
the quad bike? Yeah, and that was another thing about Penguin. From about the age of 12 or 13, the local greenkeeper had let me drive the fairway mowers and mow the greens and change the holes and all these things. But the 7th green at Penguin is an island in the middle of a dam. We used to sneak in there at midnight and get all the balls out when we were kids.
Yeah.
I was changing the hole. I parked the quad bike on the side of the hill, and as I'm changing the hole, I look around and see it rolling into the dam. So,
jeez, yeah. So then you
crashed the tractor into the greenkeeper's shed. So there were just a few signs there that probably wasn't for me. But my parents both were well educated. They were immigrants. My mum was from North Wales. My dad was from Cornwall. They sort of pushed me subtly down the university path. I was very, very lucky because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I think a few of my school teachers probably thought I wasn't going to get up to anything productive, but they offered a journalism course at the Uni of Tasmania the first year that I went to university, and it was just a natural fit.
So an opportunity came to where you lived, and so you took it.
Yeah. Yeah, and everything I ever handed in, every assignment was something sport-related, football stories, cricket. I love fly fishing, so I did an Australian history piece on the history of fly fishing, and so I was able to sort of indulge my passions a bit through journalism, and then I realised you could actually do it as a profession. So
does that scare you? Because I think about it sometimes in that, like, I went to another school at the right time. I walked in and they had musicals, and I was locked in from that, and that became my life of doing performing. But in that exact moment, you were at the exact place that had to...
So like, I reflect on it often and just think, what would have I don't really know what I would have done. Maybe gone into teaching or something. It was very funny. I wasn't overly diligent at school. I remember a school teacher saying to me one day, Alister Nicholson, what are you ever going to do with yourself? And I said, well, I'm actually going to become a teacher so I can sit next to you in the staff room every day. And she said, don't think that's really a very good idea for someone like you. So, but that's probably where I would have ended up. I don't know.
You're a father now?
Yep,
and
two boys.
Do you reflect on that with your kids now?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories that we've sort of, and my wife's encouraged this as well, tucked away in a vault to be told when they reach a certain age, where they're beyond that sort of risk factor. I think my dad grew up in Cornwall, and sort of our lifestyle when we were young replicated his in some ways, like a lot of often outside sort of farmland activities, that kind of thing, fishing and all those sorts of things, and mischief along the way. And he was pretty open about telling us stories of the past, and I think that maybe sparked something in me that, that sounds like something to emulate. So, our boys have been kept well away from some of the stuff I used to get up to. And it's a very different life for them. They grow up in the city, and I've wrestled with that as a father. You know, I'd love them to have had the space and freedom that we had when we were kids, where you were out the door in the morning and probably not seen until either mum whistled us up for lunch, or if she whistled when it wasn't lunchtime, you knew something had gone wrong and you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But we spent the whole day out roaming, just getting up to whatever.
Walking around.
Yeah, just riding out in the paddocks, playing cricket, playing footy, just building stuff, bows and arrows, all that sort of like
real
old school stuff. And it was fun,
gear.
But it's very different when you grow up in an urban environment.
I've thought about that too. Like, people talk about whether you should send your kids to private school or how do you get kids the best opportunity and things like that. I'm not a parent in any way, and it's not going to happen anytime soon, but I feel like you just show them as many opportunities as you possibly can and see what they take to. Or a spread of learning what the world is about, and seems like the way forward.
I think that's the way forward, mate, and giving them opportunities. And if they do have aspirations or things that they feel passionate about, it's just like giving them every opportunity to do that. So my attitude was always, if a kid said to me, "Oh, Dad, can you come kick the footy?" or what, if I didn't want to do it just because I couldn't be bothered, that was a really shit excuse. So I'd make myself go and do it. So love getting outside with them, playing cricket, playing footy, and teaching them. The tradition in our family is at 11 you get your first fly rod, so I'm slowly teaching them to fly fish, but that's a serious test of patience for them.
I couldn't do it. That sounds very Tassie to me.
It's peaceful, mate.
Okay. You chuck a podcast in, do you? Or?
It's just the river gliding by is enough for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, good stuff. So you're at journalism. Is there a point where you go, now I'm really locked in on footy, or...
I started with Win Television straight out of news. I'll never forget, they thrust me onto the nightly news reading the sport after I'd been there maybe 2 months. I couldn't tie a tie. If you looked at mate, it's horrific. My eyes are like fish bowls. I'd read a 2-line intro to a news story and like collapse on the desk, and my heart was racing at 200 beats a minute. It was horrific. Some of the worst television that's ever been created, I reckon. But yeah, I moved to the ABC. They were still doing a bit of live sport. Peter Newlands was the one grandstand employee that they had there at the time. So he'd occasionally need some help with a Sheffield Shield game or a domestic cricket match, local footy I got into as well.
Oh, how cool.
Funny story, Peter Newlands and I actually did a one-day domestic cricket game between Tasmania and Western Australia, a full 50-over game. We did both innings, probably an 8-hour broadcast, and at the end of the broadcast, Peter rang up Master Control to let them know that the broadcast had finished, and they said, "What broadcast?" We actually did 8 hours of broadcasting to no one.
Oh my God.
But it was good practice saying that. Yeah.
With respect, I've never heard something more ABC in my life.
It was hilarious. Yeah.
It's incredible.
I just remember looking at it and listening to him on the phone. It's like, "Oh, yeah, no, we've been doing the game." And, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then conveying to me, "Yeah, mate, you've just called 100 overs of cricket."
Oh my God.
To this room.
I mean, it's not hours lost. You know what I mean?
I was getting my flying miles up. That's the way I saw it. It was still heaps of fun.
Yeah. You're still like, even if when we're writing comedy, often you go, today we came up with absolutely nothing, but that's not the case. You're putting your brain there for 8 hours.
That's it.
Even if it's Sheffield cricket. Oh my God. But like, the charter for the ABC is to represent the entire community and to champion the things that aren't commercially viable a lot of the time. And you were certainly doing that day.
Yeah,
it's not commercially viable to do a show for no one.
We did pitch for some sponsors after that broadcast, but fair to say we didn't quite have the ratings that suggested anyone was going to get on board anytime soon.
Wow. Well, no, this is the second time you're doing a show for no one, so that's good. That's really
You've got a very loyal following.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll shout out and say they listened. The footy this year, it feels to me as we sit here this week, as it's Collingwood fresh air than the rest. Does that feel the case to you?
I reckon Brisbane is still very capable. Their best footy's excellent. And yeah, Collingwood's been really good. Melbourne, I thought, gave them a real run on Monday. And don't want to bring that up, Broden, but they pushed them all the way. So yeah, I think Brisbane's still in it. Part of me still thinks that the GWS Giants are going to find something late in the season, and they have been a bit disappointing at times. But their best footy is seriously good. I thought they would, and Geelong's the other one. So yeah, I reckon it's maybe down to 4. Yeah.
What's your favourite style? Like when you see, Al Nicholson is doing this team, you're like, "You beauty! I love the way they play."
Well, Collingwood is one of those. I definitely love calling the Western Bulldogs. I like the way they play, and they've just. Players like Tom Liberatore, like he's absolutely one of my favourite footballers. I just love the way he goes about it. He's so hard, such a good team man, selfless. And then just you see the shots of him in the rooms and he's always talking to the doorman he's the kind of bloke that you'd just love to have in your football club. But, when Ed Richards and guys like that are running the ball, that's so exciting.
Ed Richards is so cool to watch.
Yeah, and I think Brisbane's a great side to call as well. It's genuine, and Adelaide at the moment, it's the teams that try and score and get the ball moving and into open space. Lockdown jobs, that's hard work. When one team's trying to stifle the opposition, that can be I did St Kilda and Fremantle earlier this season, and that was challenging.
Yeah, I've heard before that it's those games you lose yourself in the game for the good games and you just flow through, but the challenges are those ones where it's quite slowed down. Is that the
totally
case?
Yeah, I mean as a caller you really want those smooth passages of play. Maybe there's a turnover on the half-back flank and you can see a free player on the wing and you can start to build the call from the back flank, and if it ends up in a goal, it can be a really nice passage. The hard ones are where it's just in congestion all the time and the ball's getting knocked out of hands and there are little quick hand passes and then lots of stoppages, that sort of stuff. They're quite difficult to get in a flow, I find. Yeah.
Preparation-wise, Pipe has said on this that the numbers are helpful, haircuts and gait. How do you pick?
Well, it's amazing this because I remember one of the very early games I did was at York Park, a Hawthorn game with Peter Walsh, the Adelaide broadcaster on the ABC at the time. And in the warm-up, he was like marking down boot colours and this sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, how the hell is he going to remember any of this when the game actually starts? Now I religiously... Boot colour is so important to me. Like even type of boot is really helpful. Like a trailing leg out of a pack, if you can remember what boots a player was wearing, if it's a point of difference, that's enough for you to tell who it is, even though you can't see the body. And the amount of times you don't see the number, you just cannot rely on them. So I've always been good at remembering faces and then little subtle things like, I would say, boot colour, shoulder strapping, those kind of things.
So if I was to say a player right now, you reckon you'd have a good idea of their boot, what they tend to wear?
If I would look at them in the warm up and remember them, I'd be a chance, yeah. But when I was a kid, you could have said any player's number, and I would have gone bang straight away. These days, I'm not so good at it, embarrassingly not good at it for a broadcaster, because it's not my main point of reliance. Yeah.
So like someone like Darcy Moore, he's pretty clear who he
number
is.
30. Like, I'll get Darcy, no worries. Yeah.
How about the Dacos brothers?
Yeah. They're pretty easy to distinguish. I reckon Josh wears a colourful boot. Nick wears a colourful boot and Josh doesn't.
Interesting.
And then Josh has obviously got the facial growth, and they're very easy to tell the difference between.
If I had to ask, if you had to pick one, who's the team who the whole team looks the same?
Well, I used to find it was St Kilda. Yeah, and probably a few
Black
years
hair?
back. No, it was more the blondies that they used to have, like when Nunes was playing there, and Jack, who was the little, there was Loney and different, like, they had a lot of little blonde-haired guys and then for a while, not so much anymore, but Blake Howes and McVie, I found when they first started coming into the team, it's like...
They are.
And they actually used to wear very similar boots for a while as well. So it's like, come on, boys, just give me something.
I couldn't tell you who Blake Howes was by the face today.
Couldn't you? Yeah.
There's some players. I mean, they're all the same. A lot of them are the same profile boy.
Yeah.
And it must be a nightmare.
The warm-up to me is the most important part of the broadcast. So I'll just sit there with the binoculars up and just going, that's you, that's how I'm going to pick you, that's you, that's you. And that's still, to me, the most important part of the call. Like, as a broadcaster, I just think it's so important to get the players right. Every other part of the call falls off the back of your player identification, and if you're not quite on top of it, you just get behind the play. So
there's been a few times in here where I've stuffed around and done it, and it is like when you're running in a dream. Like, you can never get moving if you don't know the players.
Totally.
It's your weapons.
Yeah.
Your knowledge is your weapons.
Exactly. So you lose your turn of phrase, you get behind the play, words don't come out the way they should if you're searching. Occasionally you'll labour over a player a bit too long. If, say, there's a great smother in the middle of the ground, I really like to say the name of the player who laid the smother, because it was an important act.
Yeah.
So you might just linger on them a bit too long, but if you do, then you've kind of missed the next possession, and then you're trying to catch back up, and I
feel like another thing that would catch me is like there's so many times I'm trying to find the right adjective or the right, that beautiful word you want to say. And then by the time you get it, the ball's down the other end of the field, I imagine.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think the language is largely conversational and relatable. I think there are some callers who've got wonderful turn of phrase and vocabulary. Who's
your favourite for that stuff?
Well, I've always thought Hardo was very good at that. And I mean, Gerard, I think, has a great way with words. I always thought Tim Lane had a beautiful way with words as well. I mean, there are a lot of I work with James Brayshaw a lot at the moment. I think he's got a super command of language. He just drops a word in every now and then. I go, geez, that's a bloody good word. That's a great way to describe that.
These are ones that have come out this year a lot, and a lot of these could be special comments ones, but these are ones that our audience have been saying. And had to score there, people say a lot.
Oh, they do.
Had to score there. That's your one wood.
I hate that. That's my least. I mean, and it doesn't make any sense to me, because typically for a golfer, your one wood's a bloody hard club to hit. So what's your one wood?
The driver?
Like,
no.
Yeah, that's your driver.
The one that goes.
A lot of people at the local golf course can't hit a driver to save themselves. Yet this term, it's your one wood, came in as if it's your most reliable, dependable. That's a 7-iron, isn't it?
During COVID, yes. During COVID, I learned to play golf for something to do, and the 7 was the one that you could really get it up, nice angle up into the
perfect loft. You don't hit it too far. Driver's got no loft. You hit it a long way, so things can go very pear-shaped.
It sounds good when you hit it.
Oh my God.
Barometer. People say barometer
they do.
a lot.
He's the barometer, yeah.
This is a one that I want to talk about. Squirts the kick out.
Squirts?
Yeah, people have been saying they hear that a lot. Squirts the kick out of the pack there.
I've heard squirts a hand pass out.
Squirts
maybe.
a hand pass.
Squeeze is a kick I'd maybe go.
Squeeze
That's
is a kick.
Like, yeah.
And then for mine. Every commentator at the moment saying for mine.
For mine. What about our game? I reckon that's come in a lot. Our game.
In what circumstances?
Well, it's just like that. We can't accept that in our game. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like in journalism, in the other shows that are, creating narratives, there's a lot of I'm hearing.
Yeah,
or
okay.
It's my belief as a way of saying whatever you want.
Yeah. So it might have a semblance of truth to it, but it's only my belief.
Yeah, my belief is I'm hearing.
Reports suggest that kind of stuff.
Well, so it is your craft to know this. If I was to show you 1 minute of footage from a game so far this year, do you reckon how would you go?
At calling it?
Yep.
it depends who it is, but I could either badly embarrass myself here, Broden, but I'm up for a challenge.
Yeah, we can always cut it if it's a disaster. I'm not here to.
Where am I watching? On your laptop?
We're going to watch on my laptop. This is round 9, Richmond versus West Coast. The last. There's 1 minute, mate. 7 left.
So you couldn't find a Collingwood game or a Carlton game with. Well, there's Ryan Mansell's on the screen to start with, so that's good.
I'll put that on mute though. Here we go.
Okay. So where's the ball? On the back. Okay, that's Sam Banks. Banks has got it on the half-back flank. He kicks Richmond up towards the wing. Big pack of players. Up they go. Taranto from the side couldn't mark. Nankervis had it, lost it. Hopper gets it. Looked to go with his left hand. Instead of bounce, he sweeps it forward up towards the half-forward flank. Marrick with a big tackle on Lynch, and the umpire will call for a ball up about 70 metres from goal.
Now, they've got to be better than that, Al. I'm Broden Kelly, and I don't muck around. And, back to you.
Well, I tell you, Toby Nankervis is a real barometer for Richmond. He always is. Former Tiger Baker's taken high. He'll get the free kick off the half-back flank. For mine, it's been a very good selection getting him into this West Coast lineup as Hutchinson takes the mark in the middle of the ground for the Eagles. They sweep it forward. Now, there's a wide shot there, and I'm not quite sure who's just been tackled. So it was Tom Brown laying the tackle. Yeah, I remember this passage of play. Corbin Middlemass called this beautifully, actually, the end of this game.
Yes, that
was the Tom Brown run-down tackle. Yeah, very good.
Now, that's well done. That was fantastic. You had that was one beautifully done. That was the clutch moment, but
I failed miserably.
But it was because it was on a wide shot. So I'm curious to know this. How important is it to be at the game?
Oh, my gosh. So important, mate. And I think on all sorts of levels, I mean, for your energy, I love walking into the ground with the fans because, they're going to the game because they are so up for the contest that day. Mm. And so you get the job of broadcasting that game to people who can't be there. So I get a huge buzz out of that. So that's one thing. And then I would have had my binoculars up then. I wouldn't have been looking at a wide shot and I would have been able to identify the player straight away.
So you'll always be at ground if you can.
I'm a binos man. Like if I would rather go to the ground naked and not have any clothes on than leave my binoculars at home.
Paddy, who was the guy who had one eye not working, the binoculars? Was that you?
That did happen. It actually happened to Jason Bennett recently, but the binoculars, I'm told, have a thing in them called monocles. And when they go, it's like I'd had 14 pints before I went to the footy.
Oh,
I'm seeing 4 of everyone. So the only thing I could do was to cover with sticky tape one lens, and then it was almost like I was looking through a telescope calling the game. So that was very different. It was a game in Perth, actually, so I assume it was a bit of a bumpy trip on the flight over, and the binoculars were cooked by the time I got there.
Fair enough, yeah. You called my favourite game in the last 12 months. I'm curious to know what your favourite game in the last 12 months was.
Well, it's a good question. I mean, the comeback between Brisbane and GWS was amazing. The fact that Brisbane got back to within about 13 points, but then...
Is that this year?
It was last season, and then skipped away. It was the semi-final,
Yeah, right.
And then it looked like they'd put them away again. And just the things Joe Danaher did in that game, you can't script that sort of stuff. And adding to the tension was knowing that it was Joe, and something could go really pear-shaped here. It was funny, the amazing goal he kicked from the left half-forward flank. You had more faith that he was going to kick that than the one that put them in front from about 15 metres out.
What a mercurial player.
Unbelievable.
My favourite that you called last year was Geelong Brisbane. My fan base will roll their eyes because I never stopped talking about this game.
Oh, really?
But like when there was the biggest crowd. It felt like a bigger vibe than the grand final, as prelims always are. But it was a little bit wet, but also that run in the last 10 minutes how was that calling?
Oh, incredible! Yeah, Luke Darcy called the Rayner goal, and I mean that is one of the most awesome finals goals. I reckon he's one of my favourite players to call too, because it's those match-winning type players who break tackles and take ground, jump in the air and take hangers, but finish on left or right foot. Like, they're so exciting. So
was Ollie Dempsey as well kicked that one that would have...
Ollie Henry. Yeah. Henry kicked a goal down at the punt road end late in the game. It had Archie kicked a goal down at the city end. Yeah, from a Cameron free kick.
It was just like it was the moment, it was such a moment of, yep, that's the game. Ollie Henry's won the game. And then Brisbane, that was the moment they won the grand final almost in retrospect.
Totally. I mean, if you think back, how on earth did Brisbane win the premiership from the positions that it got itself into during the regular season to the halfway mark?
Yeah.
They were nowhere. And then in the finals as well, there was the rundown tackle on Mitch Duncan running into the open goal late in the game as well in that prelim final. So it had...
Was that Mitch Duncan?
Yeah, so, and he'd only just come on the ground, I'm pretty sure. I think he was the sub in that
the
game.
super sub,
so, yeah, what a champion he's been. But that was...
I have a thing, and this is like when he was doing interviews for his 300 game, I was like, I've never seen this man before in my life. It was just like, he's been in every game, but he's got one of the AFL faces. And
yeah. No, I mean, he's Tom Hawkins has Mitch Duncan to thank for a lot of the goals he kicked across his career, because there were few who could deliver it laces out better than him going forward.
Great. Yeah. Man, it's been a great chat. Thank you so much for being so open and everything about it, and your story from Tassie. And are you tipping Collingwood from here on out this year?
I still think Brisbane's a good chance to go back to back. Yeah, I still do.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I want to see a new one. I want to continue this decade where we just see a new team every year. But I get the feeling either Geelong, Collingwood, or Brisbane are probably going to.
I reckon you're probably right. Bulldogs intrigue me because their best is capable, but it's not always there. Yeah, I think at their very best, they could potentially do some damage.
And as we sit here, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're on day 4 of the World Test Championship.
It's over.
It's over. It's over. Which way? How do you reckon it's gone?
Well, I'm a bit worried actually, because in England, with South Africa's bowling attack and our batting lineup being a little bit vulnerable,
Labuschagne opening.
Yeah, not sure about that. Yeah, love my cricket. I mean, Australia should win, but South Africa's bowling attack in those conditions, they could do some damage, I reckon.
That's scary. We've been better than them, though, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
So, yeah.
Need to sort the batting out, Broden. I think the top order, like Usman Khawaja's obviously going to retire soon. Steve Smith's not miles off retiring. We've got to find some top order batsmen to build the team around going forward.
All right, well, this will be irrelevant by the time this comes out. So, but thank you for that. Thanks, Al. Thanks, everyone. Bounce that pill.
Great pleasure, mate.
This is a Grouse House podcast.